On May 16th, General Christopher Cavoli stated that Russian forces lack the necessary number of troops and the skill to conduct operations at the scale needed for a strategic-level breakthrough in Ukraine. He expressed confidence that Ukrainian forces will hold the line near Kharkiv City. Cavoli noted that NATO member states have not observed Russian forces accumulating the resources required for a breakthrough, supporting assessments that Russian forces are unlikely to make significant gains against well-provisioned Ukrainian forces during the Russian summer offensive effort. NATO commanders also indicated that Russian forces are preparing for a longer-term war effort. Ukrainian forces conducted large-scale aerial and naval drone strikes against Russian energy and port infrastructure in Krasnodar Krai and occupied Crimea on the night of May 16 to 17. Ukrainian sources reported that the main military intelligence directorate and security service struck military facilities in Novorossiysk and Tuapse, as well as the occupied city of Sevastopol. The Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that Ukrainian forces destroyed 123 drones over Crimea and Krasnodar Krai, with additional unmanned boats targeted in the Black Sea. The strikes caused fires and temporary shutdowns at key facilities, showcasing Ukraine's evolving drone warfare capabilities. Russian President Vladimir Putin framed Russian offensive operations in northern Kharkiv Oblast as efforts to create a buffer zone to protect Russian border areas from Ukrainian strikes. Putin stated that these operations are achieving success, according to plan, with no immediate plans to seize Kharkiv City. ISW previously assessed that Russian forces are prioritizing this buffer zone establishment over deeper penetrations into northern Kharkiv Oblast. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Russian forces have reached the first line of Ukrainian defenses, but have not breached the concrete and most powerful third line. Ukrainian forces have stabilized the situation in the area. Russian forces are likely able to stretch Ukrainian forces along a wide front and fix Ukrainian troops in the international border area, even as the tempo of Russian offensive operations in northern Kharkiv Oblast slows. ISW continues to assess that these operations aim to draw Ukrainian forces to this axis, enabling Russian advances in other areas of eastern Ukraine. Geolocated footage published on May 17th showed Ukrainian forces striking 2 Russian tanks moving toward the international border near Sumy Oblast. Limited Russian activity in other border areas could stretch Ukrainian forces, fixing them in place and preventing their redeployment to other critical fronts. Russian forces have reportedly leveraged notable electronic warfare capabilities to support significant gains during the initial days of their limited offensive operation in northern Kharkiv Oblast. According to a May 17 report by the Washington Post, Ukrainian brigades operating in the area lost connection to drone and communication systems due to intense Russian EU jamming. This marks the first time Russian EU has completely disrupted Ukrainian Starlink connections since the full-scale invasion began. The disruptions forced Ukrainian forces to communicate via radio and phones, hindering their reconnaissance abilities. Both Russian and Ukrainian forces have been adapting quickly to each other's EU tactics. Senior NATO military commanders confirmed ISW's assessments that Russian forces do not have sufficient numbers to achieve a strategic breakthrough in Ukraine. NATO Supreme Allied Commander Europe General Christopher Cavoli reiterated that Russian forces lack the troop strength and operational skill necessary for large-scale advances. Cavoli also highlighted that NATO member states have not observed Russian forces accumulating the resources needed for such a breakthrough, further indicating the improbability of significant Russian gains against Ukrainian defenses during the summer offensive. These assessments underscore the challenges facing Russian forces as they prepare for a prolonged conflict in the region. U.S. officials reiterated their unwillingness to support Ukraine's use of U.S.-provided weapons to strike military targets within Russia. On May 16, U.S. Defense Department spokesperson Sabrina Singh stated that the Biden administration maintains its stance that such equipment should be used only to liberate occupied Ukrainian territory. This policy limits Ukraine's ability to strike military targets in Russia, creating a sanctuary for Russian forces and equipment in border areas. This stance is seen as compromising Ukraine's defensive capabilities against Russian operations, particularly in northern Kharkiv Oblast, where Ukrainian forces face ongoing pressure from Russian offensives.